Sales of Tesla vehicles in Europe plunging in July. The European Automobile Manufacturers Association saying the company's new car registrations totaled just 8,800 last month, down 40% year over year. China's BYD saw a 225% surge in new European registrations in the same time period.
Here is a twist almost nobody expected in Europe's car market. For years, Tesla looked untouchable, the cool symbol of the electric future. Then a Chinese rival that many European drivers had barely heard of quietly slipped past it in sales. In the latest European numbers, BYD has overtaken Tesla in key months for electric vehicle registrations. In some parts of 2025, BYD's electric cars are selling faster than Tesla's, and in August, it even outsold Tesla across the European Union. That is not a small shuffle. That is a leader being overtaken on what used to be its favorite track. So what just happened here? Did BYD really beat Tesla at its own game on European roads? And is this just a short-term wobble, or the start of a permanent power shift in the global electric vehicle race? To see why this moment matters, you have to rewind a little. Through the early 2020s, Tesla was the undisputed king of battery electric cars in Europe. The Model 3 and Model Y regularly topped sales charts and often ranked among the best-selling cars of any type, not just electric. Tesla was not just a brand, it was the default answer to the question, which electric car should I buy? At the same time, Europe itself was speeding into an electric transition. In many European Union countries, battery electric cars climbed into the mid-teens as a share of new sales. And when you added plug-in hybrids and regular hybrids, more than half of new cars registered in some months were electrified in some way. Electric was no longer a niche. It was becoming the new normal. In that world, Tesla's big early lead made sense. It had a strong brand, good range, a huge supercharger network, and a head start on software, which is exactly why the recent crash in its market share and BYD's rise feels so dramatic. The first warning shot came in a single month. In April of 2025, European registration data showed something nobody had seen before. BYD registered slightly more battery electric cars than Tesla. The margin was tiny, only a few dozen cars, but the symbolism was massive. A Chinese newcomer had just outscored the longtime champion on pure electric sales. Then the pattern got louder. Across the first 8 months of 2025, Tesla's registrations in the European Union fell sharply compared with the previous year, while BYD's numbers exploded upward. By August, BYD outsold Tesla across the EU, confirming that April was not a weird coincidence. It was the first sign of a shift. By late 2025, the scoreboard looked completely different from just a year earlier. Overall car sales in Europe were slightly up. Electric and hybrid cars made up more than half of new registrations in many markets. Tesla's share of the battery electric market had dropped by more than half. BYD's share, although still smaller than the big European groups, had jumped by well over 200%. So how did this happen, especially when many European drivers still cannot name more than one BYD model? Start with something a lot of people outside China forget. BYD is not a small startup. Globally, it has already overtaken Tesla in pure battery electric sales more than once. In some quarters since late 2024, BYD has been the #1 seller of battery electric cars in the world. When BYD turned its attention to Europe, it did not show up with a single hero model. It arrived with a full squad: sedans, compact crossovers, family SUVs, and plug-in hybrids that look and feel like the gasoline cars people are used to, but can cover daily commutes, mostly on electricity. Models like the Seal U plug-in hybrid slid right into Europe's most popular segment, the mid-size crossover, and offered strong equipment for the price. That brings us to the second advantage: value for money. In a lot of European markets, BYD cars land at prices that undercut or match European rivals, and sometimes Tesla too, while still offering long-range, modern infotainment and big interiors. Chinese manufacturers have pushed battery costs down through scale and tight control of their supply chains. Even with import duties, they can still compete aggressively on price. Now add in a third move that looks almost like judo. In 2024, the European Union raised tariffs on Chinese battery electric cars, adding extra duties on top of the standard car import tax. On paper, that should have slowed BYD down. In reality, it pushed the company to adapt even faster. Instead of relying only on fully electric imports, BYD leaned harder into plug-in hybrids, which are treated differently in trade rules and often face lower overall costs. These vehicles can still run electric around town, but they carry an engine for long trips, which feels safer to many buyers who are still nervous about charging infrastructure. In some European countries, BYD's best-selling model is now a plug-in hybrid, not a pure electric car. So, while tariffs were supposed to be a brake, BYD treated them like a sharp corner on the racetrack. It tapped the brakes, shifted gears, and took a smarter line through the turn. All of this was happening while Tesla was quietly running into its own problems. First, model fatigue. The Model 3 and Model Y are still solid cars, but they are no longer the fresh, futuristic shocks they once were. Meanwhile, competitors have been launching new electric models in almost every size and style, from small city cars to luxury SUVs. Some European brands now offer interiors that feel more premium than Tesla's minimalist cabins, and Chinese brands are competing hard on features like big screens and rear seat comfort. Second, price wars. Tesla cut prices several times to defend its volumes, which helped keep cars moving but also squeezed margins and trained customers to wait for the next discount. At the same time, Chinese brands arrived offering low prices without needing as big a brand halo. For many buyers, a slightly cheaper, well-equipped BYD or MG is now a serious alternative to a Tesla. Third, perception. Tesla's image in Europe has been influenced not just by its cars, but by online controversies and public statements from its leadership. In markets where trust, stability, and after-sales support matter a lot, some buyers may hesitate when there are now many other electric options that feel less polarizing. Fourth, regulations. Tesla's more advanced driver assistance features are still not widely approved at their highest levels in Europe. That removes one of its headline advantages at exactly the time when rivals have caught up on basics like range and charging speeds. If your self-driving features are limited and your competitors have similar range, the gap in excitement shrinks fast. While this duel was unfolding, Europe's own car giants were not standing still. Volkswagen, Stellantis, Renault, BMW, Mercedes, and others still sell far more total cars in Europe than either Tesla or BYD. For them, the challenge is to shift massive existing businesses toward electric power without losing their customer base. They have launched full electric lineups, from Volkswagen's ID models to new electric Peugeots, Opels, and Renaults, and many of them offer plug-in hybrids as a bridge for customers who are not ready to go fully electric. So the real battlefield is crowded. On one side, Tesla trying to defend its early lead. On another, BYD and other Chinese brands punching their way in with value and fast product cycles. And all around them, Europe's legacy automakers fighting to keep their home turf. Now add one more layer on top of all that, where the cars are built. Those European Union tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles were never meant to be the final word. They were meant as pressure. The message was simple. If you want full access to Europe's market, build in Europe. BYD took that message seriously. The company announced plans for a major passenger car plant in Hungary, with an eventual capacity in the hundreds of thousands of cars per year, plus talk of using facilities in Turkey to serve the region. The long-term goal is clear: produce all or most of the cars for Europe inside Europe by around 2028, which would avoid many of the tariffs and make the brand look less like an outsider and more like a local manufacturer that brings jobs. Tesla, of course, already has a large factory near Berlin. It was early to build in Europe. But now the roles are shifting. For Tesla, that factory is a base to defend a shrinking share. For BYD, new factories are a ladder to climb toward a much larger slice of the market. So what happens next? You can imagine three broad futures. In the first, BYD keeps surging. It ramps up local production smoothly, expands dealer and service networks, and keeps offering practical cars that undercut rivals. If tariffs stay, but BYD can dodge most of them through local plants and plug-in hybrids, it could lock in a durable lead over Tesla in electric sales across much of Europe. In the second, Tesla fights back. It launches a truly affordable, compact model built for European cities, refreshes its existing lineup, improves interior quality, and stabilizes pricing, so buyers feel less like they are gambling on timing. If that happens while European charging networks keep expanding, Tesla could regain momentum and turn today's BYD advantage into a more balanced rivalry. In the third, both of them discover that the real winner is Europe's own industry. If groups like Volkswagen and Stellantis manage to combine solid pricing, reliable service, and a wide range of electric and plug-in hybrid models, they could squeeze both Tesla and BYD into narrower niches. In that world, the headlines might still talk about the Tesla versus BYD rivalry, but the bulk of electric car sales would belong to European brands that successfully completed their transition. Most likely, the future will be a messy mix of all three, with different countries leaning in different directions. Norway might favor one brand, Germany another, Southern Europe a third. But one conclusion is already clear. BYD overtaking Tesla in Europe's electric race, even for a few key months, is not just a fun trivia fact. It tells us that the era when one company could simply ride a brand halo and a cool image is over. The market is now about value, variety, local jobs, regulations, and smart strategy. For drivers, that means more choice and more competition, which usually leads to better deals and faster innovation. For Tesla, it is a wake-up call that Europe cannot be treated like a guaranteed stronghold. For BYD, it is proof that a company that started as a battery maker in China can climb to the front of the pack on European roads, but also a reminder that it still has to win long-term trust on quality and service. And for Europe's own automakers, this is the moment of truth. They can no longer rely on their history alone. The roads they once owned are now a global battleground, and the lap where BYD slipped past Tesla might be remembered as the moment the race truly became three-way.